Well, welcome everyone. I'm Senator David Waters, and we are opening the today's meeting of the Recovery Monument Commission. Before we get started, I'll read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. The chair of the committee, Keith Howard, finds that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are using Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the commission and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously watch or listen to the meeting on YouTube and via phone by following the directions and links provided in the general court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@ledge.state.nh.us or call 603-271-3043. That's 603-271-3043. In the event the public is unable to access, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken in this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where they are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. So Chairman Howard, I turn it over to you.
Okay, so Shannon Quinn.
I am here. I'm in my home in Concord, New Hampshire, and I do have an adult child in the house, but she's not in this room.
Very good. Oh, so I'm Keith Howard. I'm in Northfield, New Hampshire. I've got one adult child and two of her friends who are paying absolutely no attention to anything that I am doing. Amanda Bolden is not here. Jen Gallagher, are you here and just listening in, or? Okay.
She's not a member of the commission. No.
Sorry. Jamie Lazar.
I am here. I am at my home in Nashua, and there is no one here with me.
Okay. Sue Allen Samuel.
I am here. I am at my home in Londonderry, and there is no one here.
Okay. David Waters.
I am here alone in this room in Dover.
Cynthia Wood.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
This is Amanda. I think that I wasn't admitted properly, and that's why you couldn't see or hear me. But
Okay. So would you like to answer the roll call? Answer the call of the roll, please.
it's me, 2 dogs, a cat, my daughter Sophia, my husband Andrew. We got a few in here.
Okay. Let's see. Cynthia Wood.
I am home alone in Hampstead, New Hampshire.
Okay. Heather Blumenfeld.
I am here in my office at Safe Harbor in Portsmouth by myself.
Hey. Nicole Klein Knight.
I'm here. I refuse to believe that Halloween is over, so I'm showing up as a lemur. I hope that's appropriate. I've got 2 dogs, an adult husband, and a sister-in-law. Very tiny apartment, but we all love each other.
Okay. Good. Doug Griffin.
I'm here in my flower shop, which is closed today, so I'm alone.
Okay, Jake Berry.
Hello, I'm here in my home in Manchester. My wife Anna is working downstairs, and my dog Clarence is here in the room.
Okay, is there anybody that I missed? Okay, I was hearing sounds, but it sounded like the crackling, so, okay. Then I believe that we are done with that portion of it. Representative Bolden, would you like, I'm wondering, since we did not send out the minutes of the last meeting, do we want to send them out and vote on them at the next meeting or have them go up onto the screen? They're fairly short. Any thoughts on that from any of the commission members?
I thought I did send them out. Can anyone confirm that you received them from me?
Oh, okay. I knew I got a copy. I didn't know that everybody did. Okay, good. Then why don't we go ahead and consider approving the minutes? Is there any discussion about things in the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, Senator Waters.
And a second?
I second.
Okay. Representative Klein Knight, second. All in favor, please signal by either raising a hand or saying aye.
Keith, you have to take a roll. I'm sorry.
Oh, I
By the
have to-
right to know, by the right to know legislation, we have to do a roll call.
Oh, right. Okay. So then, okay. So I will go by my list. Shannon Quinn, how vote you?
I'll accept the minutes.
Okay. Amanda Bolden.
I vote yes.
Okay. Let's see. Jamie.
Yes.
Sue Ellen Samuel.
Yep.
Okay. Senator Waters.
Yes.
Cynthia Wood.
Yes.
Heather Blumenfeld.
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
Jake.
Yes.
And that is everyone. So hearing no nays, then the minutes have been accepted. So I want to start by thanking everybody for sending in the pictures of monuments. And I'd really like to devote this meeting to reviewing those pictures and reviewing the monuments, not so much the pictures. So you don't need to talk about whether they're completely in focus or not, but instead the subjects in the pictures, the monuments. I know that I was really moved by a lot of them. And Alan, you're all set to switch over and
Yep, I am. Just warning though, because they're not in any specific order. So if you don't like, you can either tell me which ones you want to look at, or we can just go in the order that they're in the slideshow.
So let's begin by just going in the order, like taking a look at all of them. And then what I'd like to do is go through and give the people who submitted them a reason to talk briefly about why they were moved by this. The goal is to have us all, I don't want to say all on the same page because we've all got different perspectives, but I would like for each of us to have a better understanding of the other's view of monuments, and then also to get a sense of the room of what monuments seem to speak to the most of us.
No
So,
problem. That's cool. I can put them up right now. Just bear with me while I get it in the right screen for you guys.
okay.
Can you guys all see that? Is that the full screen right now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great.
That's one of my favorites.
Okay. and you can just go through
Oh, okay.
just to kind of look at each of them.
There you go.
Wow.
Alan,
Yeah.
the ones of the Portsmouth African Burying Ground, there was just one shot. It didn't have the other parts of it. I don't know. I thought I'd sent in more of it, but
I'm not sure. Which one is it?
the African Burying Ground in Portsmouth. And you just, it's the second slide, but you just have one little piece of it. The third slide.
Third slide
Fourth
there.
slide, sorry, fourth slide.
Yeah, I can go try to find them if you want to.
I wondered, maybe what you could do, since you have the screen, can you Google it and get some other pictures of it and then bring them up, you know, just when we get to that later on.
Yeah, no problem. That's no problem.
So
I did see another picture of the memorial in Camden, New Jersey that was sent to me that wasn't in that slideshow.
Okay, let me see, guys. Well, do you want me to put the slideshow back up and you guys go through them and I'll try to find the rest of the
Yeah, why don't we just do it that way? Let's just go, let's go with what we got, and then if you
Yeah,
can.
I didn't see my pictures in there at all. We were supposed to send them to Keith. Is that correct?
Yes, and he sent me a folder which it should have had all of them in there, and then there was a couple additional slides that were sent to me afterward that are included in there, but I will go try to find them for you guys.
okay, and I will double check, Jamie, to make sure that I did in fact send them off to him.
Okay, thank you.
So we might as well just start with what we have, and then Alan can poke around.
Yeah, that would be great, guys.
So, Alan, just in case, I'm sending you Jamie's right now.
Okay.
In case I neglected earlier. So I just want to start by saying I found myself feeling all kinds of emotions looking at all of those different slides. And I would just like to hear, like, not about any particular thing, but how other folks responded emotionally to seeing all of those monuments. And I can't see.
Well, I can take the screen share off for now while you guys are talking if you want.
So I would just love to hear what folks.
It was definitely grounding for me. Like I was able to like be in the moment and like be experiencing these photos. And that was great. That's not something that I usually do. I think it's the pictures that like allowed me to have that moment of kind of just like peace.
Yeah.
I think seeing the monuments that I was, you know, had been visiting, that I had visited previously, brought back that moment and that passion I felt at that time.
Yeah, Doug, I had that very experience with the Vietnam Wall. I am not a Vietnam vet, but I am a vet, and remember the first time that I put my fingers out against that wall, just weeping. So thanks. Other thoughts or feelings?
I'm so sorry. I can't find the hand raising, but I'd like to see Demme. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. If you are comfortable navigating, could you share with your screen? Like maybe you could bring it up real quick, because I'd like to have some context to, you know, what you just said, what you were looking at.
And Keith, if you had, it were the three that you just sent me, Jamie's.
Yes.
Okay, I can pull those up for you if you want.
Great. Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
No problem. All right, so here's one of them.
I would love it if we went through them again, and whoever shared them, like they got to talk about their feelings or why they liked it. Is that a good idea? Is that something we could do, so I can look at it and understand why it was so important to you at the same time?
Yep, that is the plan. That's what we're going to do next.
And Alan, I sent you an email with the African Burial Ground. I think it's a slide set.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, other overall responses to the whole display?
This is Shannon, and honestly, after I looked through all of them, it was I felt a bit heavy, like there was this weight. I agree with what Dejemi had said, that, you know, being in the moment and looking at each picture, it was nice to take that breath. But I realized afterwards, I kind of felt this heaviness.
So that may be a piece that we want to remember as we're going forward and thinking about what this monument that we are planning needs to have, is the ability to bring people into a moment, to have, like, one of the goals be that folks have a holy moment or a spiritual moment, or whatever word you want to use for it. Thank you, Shannon.
Sue here speaking. There were the first slideshow. There were a lot of monuments that resonated with me. But Jemmy, I'm so glad that you spoke up, because I had such an emotional response to yours. And I think that's what we're evoking.
Those aren't mine. I tried to send that in the chat, but I couldn't find it. Those aren't mine either.
Oh. Okay then, well, whoever they were, they really evoked an emotional response. I thought we were looking at yours at that point. Anybody else think that?
So I did send Jamie's forward with, oh, let's see, maybe I can share my screen.
Yes, you all have the ability to share your screen if it's easier than me trying to do it for you guys.
Let me see, can I make, so can everybody see that picture?
Yeah.
Jamie, is this your picture?
Yes, this is my picture.
Good, just wanted to make sure before I go through the whole thing.
Okay. It's the New England Holocaust Memorial, and I couldn't decide on just one picture, so I did about 3.
Nice.
and the Washington Monument. And since this isn't going to be part of the slideshow, Jamie, how about if we were to begin this next portion by having you talk about why you chose these particular monuments? So you remember what this is? And
So this is a wishing tree that's in Portland, Oregon, and it started with this lady. She was going away, she was leaving the town, and she put up like 3 tags or 3 wishes that she had on the tree, and then she came back and the tree was just like filled, you know, with like these wishes. And there's always like tags that you can that are next to the tree with like writing utensils. And I just think that like it's an amazing thing. It like filled my spirit when I saw this. And I don't know, I really
Love this.
yeah. And then the Lincoln Memorial, I really like that. I also like the World War II monument, but I think that just has more to do with like the aesthetics of it. I like the water. I think they're beautiful. There's a lot of meaning behind it, obviously, but it's, for me, it's the water, and it's like the reflecting thing. And it's like, you know, people like jog around this and they walk around it. And I remember like visiting it. It's the only monument that I chose that I have actually like been to. And then the first one, the Holocaust one, it's probably just like my favorite monument ever. I don't even like have words to describe it. It's just like the feeling. It's about the feelings, you know, the numbers and like the pieces.
That one in Boston.
Yeah. And I think that's it. Thank you for allowing me to do this. This was great.
oh, thank you, Jamie. And thank you for being patient with my technological inabilities. So
No big deal.
So I'm going to stop sharing. And Alan, would you like to put the slideshow back up, and we'll go through slide by slide, and whoever submitted it, just doing what Jamie did, talking a little bit about why.
Excuse me, guys. Oh,
Go ahead.
no, I just wanted to ask a question. I had submitted one and it was the Camden, New Jersey, and they actually did Hope and Remembrance. I didn't know if that got into the link. That was one of them.
Yeah, I just went back into my emails, and what I had shown the first time, I added the 3 slides that weren't Jamie's to the slideshow there, but those were the only ones that I had.
So that never got through. It was in an email.
If you have it, you're more than welcome to share it on your screen as well.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think it was really worth sharing because it was basically from recovery. It was in August 31st, 2020, they unveiled it.
Did we not that? I know that there was a recovery. Oh. Okay, I will forward again, I think, to Alan.
Yeah, if you forward it to me, I can put it right into the slideshow right now if you want me to.
Perfect. Okay, then I got to get back to my screen. I apologize. There we go. So, Alan, could you put up the slideshow?
Yep.
We'll just go through slide by slide.
All right. You guys see that okay?
Okay, so this is the Holocaust Memorial in Boston, right? Is that your picture, Jamie? Or
No, that one's not mine. I think it's someone else's.
okay, does anybody remember?
I think that was me, Keith. This is Jake. Yeah, I sent it. I mean, that's definitely, I think, the most impactful memorial that I've been to. I think it does a remarkable job showing just the weight and the scale of its subject matter. It is physically very appealing, and it's a kind of natural contemplative setting in the middle of a city, which I think is impressive. But it just really is just stirring and impactful, I think.
I agree. Okay, thank you. Alan, could you move on to the next slide?
This one was me. This is Amanda. I went there last year. My friend came to visit from out of state. They were in an Airbnb across the road. So we were just standing there waiting for them to come out for a while. And we were like, what is this place? And we Googled it and read about it on Wikipedia. And I guess this was a meetup spot during the Revolutionary War. And it was kind of, I don't know what it was about the space, but I was able to imagine it flatter, less populated, smaller buildings, and imagine a tree actually being there. I guess they tarred and feathered people there, but I don't know. It was something about the space that enabled me to imagine a different time and really feel it. So that was something. It was memorable for me.
Okay. And you may have said, but where is this?
Oh, Boston.
Boston. Okay. Thank you, Amanda.
Oh, this one was me too. These are shoes at the Holocaust Museum in DC. It's a lot of shoes. It's really depressing. Weirdly, so I went in high school, and for some reason, my memory was that it was a tower of shoes. I couldn't find it. This is the only way that shoes are represented at the Holocaust Museum in DC. But shoes are something that kind of can connect you across time, depending on how far back you go, but can connect you to people living that decade. There's something recognizable that you have, maybe not in that style, but you understand how shoes work, where they go, what they feel like on your feet. And so it was, again, it hit me hard. Like the whole museum in DC is really a really rough experience, really emotional, but the shoes hit me the hardest, I think, just because they were so relatable. And I don't know why shoes are relatable, but they were. And there's just so many that it's kind of, the scale of things is a little more tangible, because there's that quote, what is it? One is a tragedy, a million is a statistic, something like that. And I think like this presentation flips that experience and makes it more tangible when it's, a lot of people. So that's all.
So, Amanda, just so you will not feel alone in your universal feeling about shoes, when I was walking Hadrian's Wall, there's a Roman fort there where Roman soldiers' shoes were all thrown into a pit when they were issued new ones. And for some reason, because of the dryness of the climate, the shoes, which were thrown in there from the years 133 AD to 330, all survived. And they've got the shoes set up now as a display. And I could just look at those shoes for hours and just picturing Roman soldiers wearing those shoes. So if you and I need a support group, I'll be glad to give you a ride, but I too find shoes really evocative, so.
Well, it's something everyone, unless you're really unlucky, it's something everyone has at least one pair of. So they're universal.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, there we go.
Oh, this one's me too. So now we're done with mine. This is a mummy in Guanajuato, Mexico. Something about the soil in Guanajuato accidentally mummified a bunch of bodies in the 1800s. And they were, they weren't trying to mummify them. It was the 1800s, in Mexico. That wasn't like a cultural thing at the time. And people say that Mexicans are really lighthearted about death. And I'm not sure that I've experienced that myself, but this museum was definitely unapologetic about death. And it was just a museum. It wasn't a memorial or a monument. But obviously each person who died and was buried in this unintentional mummification cemetery was being memorialized in this museum. And it was really shocking for me to see human bodies in this way. So yeah, this is a dead a dead person. But they're I don't know. I can't really explain it, but it hit me pretty hard too. I think I was in middle school when we went to this museum, and they had them. Some of them were presented respectfully, and I think this is one of the more respectful presentations. And some of them were dressed up as vampires and backlit, which maybe again speaks to the lighthearted attitudes toward death in that culture. But it was shocking for me to look at our forms in a new way. I guess, maybe also just for a middle schooler, it was shocking. I don't know. That's all I got.
Well, thank you very much, Amanda. So I believe this is mine, and this was the AIDS quilt laid out in front of the Washington Monument. For those of you who are old enough, throughout the late 80s and then throughout the 90s, as AIDS was killing hundreds of thousands of folks, it became part of a remembrance to make up a quilt panel and have it be added to a huge AIDS quilt. And I remember seeing it in full display, and then there were also traveling displays that went around the country, and just thinking of all the lives lost moved me really deeply. So. And does somebody belong? Oh, David, this was yours?
Nope, not me.
Does anybody claim this?
No.
It's very beautiful.
That one hit me really hard.
Any particular reason?
Because I lost my daughter, and I think of her as an angel.
Yep, that.
So, Alan, did you get I sent you 2 emails. There's quite a few things that didn't reach you. But do you have the first one I sent you just a little while ago that has the African Burying Ground slideshow in it?
It's actually just a website which you had sent me, and for me to get out, I would have to stop sharing and go grab it. But that's
if you wouldn't mind, that would be great.
You guys see that okay?
Yes, and can you scroll through it?
Yes.
So let me just explain here. Maybe go up to the top. No, keep going. Wait a minute, down. The figures. All right, so this is in Portsmouth. It's an urban setting. I included it because I had a lot to do with this, event and moment when I was there when the bodies were unearthed during a sewer construction project. And the decision was made to close off this section of the street pretty much, so a couple of residents can still get down to it. And underneath it, there are probably hundreds of African Americans who were enslaved in Portsmouth buried. And they have a crypt in which the ones that were disturbed by the project were placed. And so what the artist has done is up at the top has these 2 figures. One is Mother Africa, and then just reaching around but not quite touching the hand of an enslaved African American. And then you weave down through the site, and what you maybe go back the other way, Alan. You weave down through the site, and you're led by an inscription of the slave petition in granite that makes a serpentine path from that monument. That was from 1779, that petition. And you follow that, reading the words, down to this place that's meant to represent the influence of the ancestors. And if you can go up a little bit, Alan.
That's as high up as it goes.
All right, well then go the other way, please. And here, these figures each have an inscription on them about their story in a way, or their inspiration of who they were and why they're here. And then you can just kind of see the little ceramic on the fence behind. And these were done by school children in Portsmouth who, responding to the story, created these contemporary designs, which are then put in ceramic and placed on the fence. And when you get down here, there's places to sit and meditate and contemplate. And near these figures is the round Sankofa figure in the pavement, under which is the burial crypt of the remains that were there. So it's, I think I included, you know, it's an interesting story, but I included it because it's really quite moving to see it, and that you feel like you're being taken to a different place, and then have an opportunity to sit and meditate and contemplate. And yet it also celebrates the continuing life, and the kind of spirit and the joy that comes from the present, from the recognition of memory. Like the Sankofa symbol is go back and get it. And that, that going back into the past, no matter how dark, means that you're stronger when you have more hope when you go forward. And here, yeah, this one here shows you how they're placed in the benches. And then at the very bottom of this photograph, there's the crypt under which the remains are. So anyways, that's and if it's as much about, how do you make an experience in an urban place? How do you provide for experience? And it's lit at night. Those figures have lights on them at night, which is interesting, kind of visual. Okay.
I'll go back to the slideshow now. Is that?
Yeah, please.
So, David, before we go on to talking about the next slide, there seemed to be a lot of thought that went into that whole process. Can you just talk briefly about what your experience was in...
Oh, sorry, guys, hold on. There you go.
In planning that monument?
Sure. Well, I was not on the committee, but as a member of the Black Heritage Trail in New Hampshire, I helped with some of the historical research and so on. But they set up a Blue Ribbon Commission in Portsmouth, and it took about a year or two. A lot of city issues about whether the city would close off a street, what the residents thought, and what kind of thing could be placed there. And then a lot of ideas were developed about, needing to recognize the folks who were buried there and what had happened to them and how their history had been erased. And then what the legacy or the contemporary community wanted that to be commemorated, and what experience they wanted. And then they put out a request for proposal, and really fantastic African-American artist. And the proposal here was both for a commemorative sculpture, but also for the environment, for kind of a landscape, so the design is not just the figures, but also how people experience the place. And so once the design was developed, then the committee took over as a fundraising entity, and they raised, you know, I don't know, it's like $1 million, I think, because there's a lot of street work that had to be done. And then they also paid for all the very extensive archaeology and studies that were done of the remains and so forth. So I don't know what the actual price tag on the artist was, but it certainly wasn't that much. And it's been fabulously successful as a gathering place and a place for commemorations, celebrations, and you know, somebody has been placing fresh flowers in the hands of Mother Africa almost, you know, every week since the monument opened years ago. So it clearly speaks to the Portsmouth, and it also has kind of transformed Portsmouth identity and sense of itself, in that people in Portsmouth now see the city as a location for this monument and for commemorating this past. And so there is that kind of potential that when we do a monument, that wherever it is, that community embraces it, and that people will start to, you know, think about the community. And people travel from all over the country to visit this as well. So anyways, is that enough, Keith?
That is enough. Thank you. Yeah, I just think there's a lot in what you just said that we want to keep in mind as we're going forward, about how important it is to have the community embrace things and to include the community where whatever monument we propose is going to be cited, that we include and empower the local community so that they will see it as a gift instead of a burden that's coming to them. So thank you. Okay, Alan, can you move on to the next? Oh.
So this is one of my slides. And I think I have 4, and they're all sort of along the same theme of people holding hands, people in a circle, just showing unity across all different demographics of people. And this, to me, represents like not only that substance use disorder could affect anyone across all demographics, but also the family members that are left behind have all of a sudden have some common thing happen to them, like the understanding, and that's unity amongst another group of people. So as sad as it is, you know, bringing people together, and I think that not only having a monument where people, loved ones, can go and remember someone who has passed on, but I think it would be really great if that could also be a place where people went to think about those families that have been left behind, for those grieving parents and siblings and loved ones. So kind of 2 different groups of people to go and think about, you know, not just think about the people that have passed away, but think about the people that are left here and are still suffering. You know, as you know, I come to this from I'm a family member in recovery, and you know, I do run a grief group exclusively for substance use disorder, and it's pretty amazing to see the different people that come together for that meeting, because they have all lost a loved one. People that would never normally sit and share a conversation or exchange phone numbers, but all of a sudden they have this common thing that they share, that they feel like nobody else understands, that nobody understands what it's like to have lost a child from a substance passing, you know, which is so different from another type of passing. So to me, if we could try to incorporate those 2 things, you know, having a place where people can go and think about a loved one that has passed, but also remember that there are family members that are out there still grieving and needing support. But to me, that's important. And so all of my slides have people in these type of situations, hugging one another, holding hands, this unity circle. That was just kind of my thinking and when I was looking for these pictures.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Heather.
So that one's not mine, but I think they're all coming up. There's a bunch of circles. There's a mother embracing someone else, which we could think about is maybe she's holding on to her own child, or maybe she's hugging someone else who has the same loss. That one, you know. So
These are Heather, these are wonderful. They really are.
Do you remember where that one was, Heather? The couple hugging each other?
no, I don't. I can look it up. But also there's another one. If you could go back, I think it's 3 slides. No, just the one. Forward, maybe. This is an actual monument that was put together by 2 parents in Tuckaway, New York, or Tuckahoe, New York. They put this monument together after they lost their own child. And you see they have chairs there where people can go and sit and reflect for a few minutes. And it just shows sort of the brokenness of both someone going through the illness of substance use disorder and the broken pieces left behind. So I thought that was a pretty neat monument. And I know that it was not very costly.
Heather, this is Shannon. And am I looking at this correctly that the shapes that make up that person are people touching
Yes.
each other? Wow.
Yes.
I thought this
Yes.
was a really powerful
yeah. So
monument.
again, that like, you know, we're all in this together kind of thing, you know, holding hands and hugging each other to support each other.
Wow, that is really beautiful. Okay, and so do you think that's all of yours, Heather?
I think there might have been one other one. That was one. And then there was the yeah, I think so.
Is that yours?
Yeah, that's mine as well. I mean, that's an underwater one. You know, I think that can be looked at a couple different ways where the backs are towards the circle, you know, kind of like we're going to stand up and fight against this in a way. I don't know. I like the idea of showing the person to person contact. I think is important to make it a little more, you know, to show how vulnerable we all are to this.
That is just beautiful.
Pretty amazing.
Thank you, Heather. And does anybody remember sending this in?
Yes, this is Shannon. This is a project done by an artist named JR, and he has done different projects like this around the world. Very much into this photographic collage technique, and the photo that's getting laid down there right there is actually of my daughter. We had gone to New York City for her 18th birthday, and this was a live art display happening in Times Square where they papered the whole street with people's images. He's done, like I said, things all over the world, lots of stuff in New York, and it's always with these photos that dissolve over time. And I'm not sure folks in Concord, I don't think that he was the artist involved in the one here in town, but there was somebody else that did a similar photo collage in some of the downtown common areas that we have, some of those little parks right off of Main Street, you know, similarly. So again, these pictures go up and then they dissolve over time and can be reproduced. What I liked about this was just that it was happening in the moment. And, you know, anybody could share for whatever their reason was. But he's done lots of different kinds of projects. This was just one that I actually got to participate in. So I liked that it was a very participatory project.
Very cool. Thank you.
Mhm. This is another picture of something that he has done as well, where he covers buildings. One of his projects, he made the Louvre disappear with a collage project in front of the Louvre. But he's done different projects to like tell his version of the riots in a Belly district in New York. He's done things in Brazil. He's a very interesting artist.
Mm. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and this is mine. I just find it visually really striking. It has, a fairly obvious message. I just thought it was a cool monument, a cool statue. So I guess it's not really a monument, but a cool statue. And that's really all I've got to say is I was struck by it visually. And this, the same thing, I do like the laughter. And I don't know that it fits right in with the theme that we would be looking for, but I just like, I don't know how you can look at this and not get a smile on your face. Senator Waters, I can see your smile. So I just think it's a cool work of art. That's it.
Yeah, really.
This is me again. And they have, or at least they did, they were dismantling this. And I know there's lots of other bridges around the world that have these locks on them. But I just like this was in Portland, Maine. I liked the ability to go and put something permanently somewhere to signify whatever it was you were going through. A lot of these are done for love. People write their initials on them. But I do also appreciate that it can, weigh things down and destroy bridges, which is why they've taken this one down. I think they took one down in Paris. But in Moscow, what an artist had done, and I found this later and didn't share it with the group, but they purposely built they erected this giant iron tree where people could then put locks again. And it speaks to me the way that Jamie's wishing tree spoke to me. I like the ability to interact with something and to go and put your thought, whether it's written down or it's just a personal thought while you're locking this lock onto a tree. I'm giving a piece of myself there to remember something or someone. So I just liked that interaction.
That is very cool. This is mine as well. I just was struck by the simplicity and yet the stunning nature of that as a piece of sculpture. And I cannot for the life of me figure out how the art, it's just a stunning thing to me that it can be both a piece of sculpture and it can also work as two-dimensional art. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, so this is another one of mine. And I put a couple of these up, not because it so much moved me personally, as it was a kind of example of something that's in New Hampshire and how something, how something like this has been done. This is the Public Works Monument up at the State Office Park that commemorates those people who have been killed in working for public works around the state over many decades. And so what I liked, what I thought was useful about it is that you have a central monument that is kind of interesting in the way the granite's done, but you can't really see the blocks that build it up. That kind of connects to the idea of public works and explains what it is. And then if you go up to the left, there are these blocks that are each county, and the names of people lost are engraved there with room, unfortunately, for others. But what you can't see is that to the right of what we're looking at along the road is a really interesting series of bronze monuments, which are actually shovels with the handle stuck in the ground, and the shovel, up, they're shovel size. And so it's really kind of striking about here bringing home the individual and the work that's done, and the most simple implement, the shovel, there. And so it just is kind of visually striking. If you are up at the State Office Park, you can drive by this and take a look. And it's pretty much brand new. It was unveiled about a year ago. And the ceremony, and all the local departments brought their heavy equipment to park there, and so we'll see how over time whether it becomes a center for participation of various departments of public works around the state. But that's why that one's here, just as a kind of way of doing things that combine central monument with a way of recognizing individuals.
Thank you very much, David. Is anybody going to claim this? I think it's very cool, but this is mine, and for the same reason that I really liked the face, it just was very visually stunning. This too, incredibly stunning to me, just as a work of art.
This is mine. It's the Shaw Memorial down in Boston. It's actually been removed for cleaning and repair, but it's one of the most famous public monuments in the country. It celebrates the 54th Regiment in the Civil War by Augustus St. Gaudens of New Hampshire. And so I included it because of its use of the classical elements. I mean, this is very much goes back to Greek and Roman notions of a classical frieze and individuals who are kind of marching from the past into the future, and all very highly individualized, and yet with the figure of victory up there, the kind of classical commemoration of something eternal. So that way of combining the kind of the notion of the eternal with the individual and the ephemeral nature of history and lives. It also, when it was commissioned and created about 120 years ago, was one of those ones where here are people who were stigmatized, forgotten, erased from history, and the attempt here to make very visible right across from the State House, one of the most prominent places in the state, that bring these people's stories and their presence back into kind of central place in what it means to be an American.
Nice.
This is me again. This is the Trevi Fountain in Rome. I was very fortunate to be able to see this in person, and it was just breathtaking. But I've always been drawn to wishing wells and the idea of making a wish and throwing a coin, and the superstition of that all, and the hope that you instill in this coin as you're tossing it. There are lots of different wishing wells all over the world. They date back to the Celts, and I find from very small wishing wells to hugely elaborate ones like this, that I like the sound of the water, of the movement of the water. Makes me think of life and movement, and something about it just really relaxes me. Although I am terrified of actual water. Like I stay away from going in boats. I'm not going to go swimming, none of that kind of stuff. But to sit and listen to it is just very peaceful to me. And what I found interesting when I was reading about the Trevi Fountain, the coins that are tossed in there are also retrieved yearly to help pay for the restoration and upkeep of the fountain. And in 2016, they retrieved $1.5 million from this fountain. They think it's an average of 30,000 euros each day that are tossed into here. And I'm not saying that, we're going to make $1 million in our fountain, but something like that could also help with the upkeep of whatever we decide to do, whether, it's however our monument is going to be. I know in that bill, we're tasked also with the upkeep of it. So trying to put that thought into it as well. But as you can see from all of mine, I like something that's participatory, that I can sit there and just partake in what's going on around me, but I can also involve myself in the piece, in the monument. So I like that part of it, the human interaction. Yep.
Future thinking, Shannon, to be figuring out how much money can. And this is the Vietnam Wall in Washington, and walking along and putting your fingers onto the names of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who died in a war that didn't make a lot of sense. It is just overpowering for many of us of a certain age. So,
yeah, I sent that in too, but I guess again another one of mine didn't get included. But it really is also pretty powerful because the polished black granite. When you look at the names of the people who died, you also see your own face. And I think that kind of quite literally cause for reflection. And then the way that, because it's these two long arms that go to a disappearing point at either end, and they lead you down under the level of the ground, so that it really is you're going down into a darker place and then emerging up. So yeah, it's just a great example of what you can do with a site. How an artist can take a site and make you have an experience of it. And then the other thing too is, like, I think which we'll have with our monument one way or another, is that the way that people come and leave flowers, or gosh, they've had whole motorcycles left there, Christmas trees, and that the way it functions as a way of people coming very privately to mourn or remember.
Sorry, Keith, I think that's mine. That's the Pollyanna statue up in Littleton. I imagine this is very different than something we might end up with, but I thought it really captured the mood and the tone that they were looking for. In this case, kind of exuberance and innocence. And so while, again, our final product may ultimately look like something very different, I think that it just really captured the spirit of what they were trying to get to. And that was something I appreciated about it.
yeah, just as a work of sculpture, that is very cool. I mean, I can just feel her joy and openness to life. It's a very, I've been to Littleton. I've never noticed the Pollyanna statue before. And that is a World War II memorial in, I forget which country in Eastern Europe. And I can't help but look through the center of it and be looking at the sky. Again, I just find it to be a really powerful work of art. And that's my commonality, is that I've been viewing each thing as a work of art.
Mhm. Yeah, this one was really powerful to look at.
Yeah, it's really something.
Yeah. My grandfather was in World War II. He's still alive. This is this is very powerful.
And is somebody going to claim this? It's very cool.
I'm not going to, but can I go at the end and just share my screen? I didn't give you my homework.
Oh, sure you can. Yes. Okay. So I guess we can move on, Alan.
I do know, I think this is in Battery Park.
Okay. And I find that really terrifying. Just as a gift. I don't like that. I mean, it's fine if people like it. For me, that is really off-putting.
It's intimidating.
Looks kind of Soviet Union-like for sure, just to throw my 2 cents in there.
Yep.
Hello.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Doug.
Yeah, I sent that one in, not so much for just the eagle, but that whole memorial in Battery Park. It lists the residents that were lost, and it's another one of those like the Holocaust Museum of towers of names from different places in Manhattan around, and it's just very stirring to walk among very tall monuments with names on them. It's like the Arizona Memorial is the same way. It's another huge wall of names that you can go and remember that this is your relative. This is someone that you knew and that you loved. It's just very impactful.
Thank you, Doug.
This is another one of mine, and I've been to this several times. This is the John Lennon Memorial in Central Park in New York, and it's often decorated by flowers, people singing, laughing, weeping. There's just so much emotion at this site. Every time I've been there, it's just you could stay there for hours and just feel all of the emotion that's happening there.
Okay, so
Alan, I sent you an email with one more.
You want to let Representative Klein Knight do hers, and I'll go add it to the slideshow.
Yep.
Did you get the one from Cynthia? The one from New Jersey? Did you send that back in, Cynthia?
I didn't, but I can actually share my screen if you like. I've got it up.
Yeah, awesome.
I like that one because they sold pavers to go with it, which is not a bad idea. They were getting a couple $100 a piece for them.
Would you like me to go ahead and share it, or?
Yes, please.
Okay, hang on one moment. Hang on a second. It's not sharing, is it?
Not yet.
Okay, hang on. Can you see it?
Not yet.
No.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
So you got it. It's good.
Yep.
Okay, so this was in Camden, New Jersey. This really hit me. I mean, personally, I think, because it says a lot of things. It's in the center. There's a whole tribute that they did with it. It's got the pavers. Sorry, I'm just flicking through to see if I can find where they've got the pavers there. And I'm not finding it, but there is areas, if there's a YouTube with it, there's quite a bit. And there's benches around the memorial. If you can kind of look around that are stationary there, people can come and remember, like the Vietnam Wall. You can leave flowers. It's reflection. You know, I think with this, not only us, you know, family members that are grieving the loss of somebody, but there's also all their friends. There's also a lot of, I think, people in recovery who are struggling. And they want to remember the people they lost and kind of move forward into the future. Hang on a second, maybe I can pull. I'm sorry, I'm just.
Oh no.
Yeah, I wish I could find the pavers they had. But that's one of the ways that they raised it, the money for names. The only thing is that I worry about that is if somebody can't afford to have their loved one with a paver and they may feel left out. I mean, that's something if we did something like that, we could talk about. Yeah, so, and I also just wanted to mention that I had also submitted the same one as Doug, the John Lennon Memorial, because I thought that invoked a lot of emotion, just the fact that a place people can go, remember, and also for hope. And that's all I got on that.
This is Amanda. For what it's worth, if there were pavers or something similar involved, I'm sure that there would be people who would want to donate a large amount to enable people's loved ones' names to be included if they can't afford it themselves.
Exactly. I think you bring up a great point, and I'm so excited about this, guys. I want to help you to not put yourselves in a box. What you've seen monuments, or you think it has to be a certain way, and that shuts down, that sounds a lot of creativity. If that's a good segue, I'd like to share my. Okay, so can you see this? Can everybody see this? Okay, so I just want to propose this idea. In Thailand, you see lots of structures and temples, and what can be very powerful is the materials they're made out of. So in this case, you know, all these little sequins or all these little gems and mosaic-like, and those materials can be representative of names too. So by you know helping, we can make this really affordable, and that could be a part of the whole structure. So if everybody donated, you know, a gemstone or something, and we can make it so affordable that other people, or you know, we can figure that out later. But the point is, materials can be representative of people's names, so that we that's a fundraising idea. It has a huge effect when all these little pieces come together, just like names, just like shoes. And I also heard from a lot of you that you like the fact that it's interactive and you like these smaller statues. So I just want to show you in Santa Rosa, California, the creator of the Peanuts lives there. And it brought in revenue for the town. A lot of people would come all over to go to the Peanuts Museum. And what they did was to get them to visit other parts of the town. They had these little sculptures, and it was, you know, like a walk to do this, or you had to go that one, you know, so a trail, if you will. So if you guys like a lot of little sculptures, and you also want people to go out into the community. Where you place these little sculptures can have a huge impact. And I also heard concern last time about, you know, maybe not wanting people that are struggling currently in recovery to, you know, be in certain areas. And that's going to be hard on this, especially if your intent, when you are designing a monument, you really have to think about intent. Just like Senator Waters was saying, you know, you don't just see those names in the Vietnam monument, you see your own reflection. That was all intended. So if you are thinking about what this monument means to families that have struggled, your intent, and maybe your intent is also to help people that are currently struggling, that can be roped into this project. So if you want to have a trail where you follow all these different sculptures, maybe one leads you to a facility where you can get help. So people can still, it can be appreciated for every step of the stage. Or there's, you know, so it means something to everybody, and there's almost a different part of the monument everywhere. So I just want to challenge you guys and bring that up if in case that sounds interesting to you. And a lot of that will bring economic flow to the towns that the statues are into and help us so we can afford more assistance programs to providing that. Another one, which is a really cool idea, I don't know if it's applicable here, but I went to college in Santa Rosa for a little bit. So I really love, I have a little, I really like that place, a little favorite. But they did this project where they had a park or an area, and they did a project with another country, in this case, Korea, and Santa Rosa actually designed one of their parks, and they designed one of ours, so that in case, if this is an idea, another area of the country or another area of the world that's struggling with the same problem can make us feel more connected when we share those experiences with a whole nother area. And it's like a mirror, you know, we're sharing with people that have the same problems all over the world. So I thought that would be interesting to share with you in case you've never seen that before. And then this one, I want you to know, like, monuments obviously have been around forever, but we're not limited to materials anymore as artists. We've got technology. So think of something that maybe you want a sculpture that lights up at night, that is peaceful, that people can go visit no matter what time of the day it is. And you know, the little sculpture of all those little people that were holding hands to make up a bigger person. I saw somebody submit, I thought that was really cool. You could do something like that and you can light it up too. So it adds a whole nother element to think about. And I just wanted to leave you guys with that. It's one of my favorites. Oh, and also the interactive aspect, a lot of, you know, hanging something on a tree like a wish, or this is the Western Wall, of course. A lot of people know about this. It's in Israel, where people come from all over to leave their wishes or their prayers. And maybe we want to incorporate that in you want an interactive monument. So like I said, there's a lot to think about. Like if you want people to be able to go get resources, or people just want serenity and they want to be able to, you know, like a Dropbox, do you want your note to be somewhere, or do you want, you know, to incorporate reaching out as part of the monument? So I just wanted to give you guys some more curveballs.
Okay. Well, thank you.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Senator Waters, are you waiting on another picture?
I think maybe.
Yes, I have the one from the police memorial, or the law enforcement and first responders. Hold on one second.
I'm,
I see that.
thank you, Alan. I imagine this is pretty familiar to most folks who have been in Concord. It's the Fallen Officers Memorial behind the State House. And I just wanted to include this for two reasons. One is because it's a fairly abstract design. You've got the stars there in the granite, which represents the badge, and then some benches. And then on those walls are engraved the names of the fallen officers. And there is a ceremony each year to which hundreds and hundreds of law enforcement and other folks gather. And the names are read off one at a time, and descendants or officers from the community place a flower and a wreath at that time. And then if there's anybody who's been added during a year, the name is commemorated as well. So I just, I go to that every year, and it's a meaningful ceremony. But it just, for me, was another example of something that's been done in New Hampshire. It's very public, but then attempts to combine the kind of eternal elements with the individuals who are being commemorated there. So thank you, Alan.
Okay. I do feel like I know each of you better than I did at the beginning of this time. Any overall response to the experience of hearing another dozen people talk about what moved them?
This is Shannon. I really liked the diversity that we got to see in these, and to hear the reasoning behind why somebody shared it, and I got to see things I didn't even know existed, even some things right here in New Hampshire, like the monument in Portsmouth. So I liked that we all got to share a number of items with each other and talk about what they made us feel, why we shared them.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I just second what Shannon was saying. And I really appreciated the diversity here, and also just the sense of how many different ways there are to think about what helps people emotionally connect. And then also how to have people emotionally connect with each other. And then, thinking about how the experiences get you to a place that might be somber or might be kind of timeless, but also can kind of pull you in, particularly the ones that had individual figures, people that, you connect, that kind of sculpture really makes you connect with the people, with the person, in a way. And I guess I come away from it thinking that I think it's really possible. I mean, any of these kinds of hopes and feelings that people have is not, I don't think anything's mutually exclusive, that there really are going to be some really wonderful ways, I think, for us figuring out how we want to be really inclusive in what we're doing.
Yep. I'm going to take a point of privilege and complain about Zoom as a way to have this kind of conversation, because there is not the natural ebb and flow that we would be having if we were all in the same place. So I don't want for anybody to feel like silence at this kind of question means that other people are feeling alienated. Just the medium that we're using doesn't lend itself to this kind of emotional conversation. So that said, any other thoughts or feelings or responses to what we've just done?
This is Amanda. I just had a question for Heather and Sue. Last time I didn't get your title for the minutes. Ms., Mrs., Miss.
I'm a Mrs.
And Susan?
I'm a Mrs. or a Ms. It doesn't matter either.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I just have a question, if I could. Is it not part of our charter to make this memorial also to celebrate recovery?
Yes.
And I think a lot of our discussion today was more about remembering those we've lost, when I think that we need to keep in mind that we're trying to give people in recovery a place to go and celebrate their recovery.
Yep. And that is going to be a challenge, Doug, to have those two competing messages, and that'll be something that we'll need to find exactly the right artist to be able to give out two complementary but not necessarily parallel messages at the same time.
Yeah, I think maybe in our thoughts on the memorial, we could allow space for reflection, a bit distant from the memorial, so that there could be some reflection, and separate that a little bit from the celebration.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. And it's just going to be interesting, because I think that, as someone in recovery, I just, and I've lost family members to substances. So, there is that double side, but I really hope that we can find a way that we are both acknowledging, and, Keith was very interested in having the language in there, and acknowledging historically the organizations that have been central. And then, the past, people have been lost, and maybe it's pavers, but also, I think that's just so true. The joy, the celebration, the hope. And so maybe it's that we'll be thinking about a design that has different components or different areas within it, or, lets people travel through the site, whatever it is, and see these kinds of things in dialogue with each other, which could be pretty powerful.
Yeah, because if you look at the span of substance use disorder, we can go through prevention, treatment, recovery, or loss, and cover all aspects of it.
Thank you.
The Holocaust one, what could be more depressing and horrible than the 6 million lost, and yet those towers are soaring. They are, they're so uplifting, and they're kind of a triumph. So I think great artists
Growing in
do some good things.
like life and death.
Yep.
The hope
But
that
these
names are not forgotten, and that in a way, as you look at the life growing inside the monument, that not only are they not forgotten, they're alive again right there.
I think what would be impactful is if you had a wall of names with those that were lost mixed in with those that were in recovery. You could go to the wall and point to your own name, or the name of someone that you love that you lost, and it would just be so impactful to have those names mixed together rather than separating them out.
I have to go.
I have to go in a minute too, Heather. I'll see you in the next meeting.
That's. I hope we can capture Doug's idea, because I think that's a wonderful thought. I thought, oh well, I'll have my cousin, maybe my dad, I'd get a paver for, but then I was thinking, darn it, I'd like to have one for myself. It's a really interesting idea that that we should. That it isn't all about. It's not all. It's all. This is not all meant to be a cemetery, huh?
Right. It's also a birthing place.
Yeah.
Without wanting to sound over religious, I do feel like many of us were given a chance to begin life again once we stopped playing Russian roulette and retired from that game and were able to rejoin the game of life. So
This could be a big effort to decrease stigma, which should be our goal in life.
yes.
There you have it.
Well said, Doug. So the steering committee, which is to say, Senator Waters, Representative Bolden, and I, and love to have anybody else participate that would like to, but we thought that it would make sense for the next 3 meetings to have people come in who are in recovery or who have lost family members and speak from their hearts about their own experiences. And my preference would be that we not have representatives of different organizations just because organizational thinking, like I would really love to have each of us try to find somebody who would be willing to come and speak to the commission either about how they got into recovery and what they might be looking for in a recovery monument, or about their loss and what they might be looking, because while we're a dozen people with good intentions, we are not all of the recovery community or all of the community that has lost people. So I will try to do a much better job than I apparently did with keeping pictures regularly sent off to Ellen. And I think that just getting names will be a lot easier. But if I could ask each of you to send me a name or two of somebody that you've spoken with who would be willing to come in, because I don't want to be cold calling people and saying, hey, how would you like to come and, bare your soul for us? But if you could, like to have the December and January meetings devoted to that, kind of broadening the chorus of voices that we're hearing from. And I promise there are going to be boring committee things to do in the future, like setting up committees and all that. But I think it's very, very important that I suspect that each of the statues and monuments that we looked at today was not pulled together just by a committee, but was the result of a whole bunch of people coming up with a common vision. And again, while the dozen of us are good-hearted and bright people, if we can double or triple the number of voices, I think that that will help us as we go forward. So the homework for this time is for you to identify somebody in your social circle who does not work in recovery or doesn't work for a social service agency, but is a person who is in recovery themselves or who has lost a family member or somebody close to them or both, who would be willing to come and talk to us for 5, 10, 15 minutes in either December or January. Does that seem reasonable to folks?
Yeah, and Keith, as I recall, the idea is that that they would have a copy of the legislation because the kind of the idea is that from your experience, what do you think would be valuable to have in a monument?
Right, and so and from the committee meeting minutes, I will put together a list of questions that we would like for them to touch upon while they're speaking. And then if they don't, we'll ask those questions. But it would be best I think, to have people just telling their story in a way that answers the questions that we may have, rather than turning this into an interrogation.
Yes.
Okay. Other stuff that needs to be or done for this meeting.
I believe that if there are any members of the public who wish to speak, that Alan, if there are, we have to have public comment moment.
There is no public attending right now, so I don't think anybody will be commenting.
Okay. And do we need to have a roll call for adjournment as well?
I'm afraid so. I'll move we adjourn.
Okay, can I get a second?
I second.
Second. Okay.
Okay, any number of seconds, okay. I gotta go back to the list of folks. I apologize.
Who seconded that?
This is Shannon Quinn.
Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer Gallagher, okay. So, Shannon Quinn, how vote you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, am I allowed to make editorial comments, Senator Waters? I'm not much of a parliamentarian.
You're the chairman. You got the power.
Okay, Amanda Bolden, how vote you?
Yes.
Jamie Lazar, how vote you?
Yes.
Sue Allen Samuel, how vote you?
Yes.
David Waters, how vote you on your motion?
Yes.
Cynthia Wood, how vote you?
Yes.
Heather Blumenfeld, who has left. Nicole Klein Knight, how vote you?
You got it. Yes.
Okay. Doug Griffin, how vote you?
Yes, I have to go before it gets dark.
Okay, and Jake Berry, how vote you?
Aye.
Okay, goodbye, everybody, please. I've got the same email address, those names. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.